Jaya Nila Prema Dhana Karuna Pracho Jaya Jaya Nila Prema Dhana Karuna Pracho Hena Prabhu Kotha Gala Acharya Thakur Hena Prabhu Kotha Gala Acharya Hena Prabhu Kotha Gala Acharya Thakur Hena Prabhu Kotha Kaha mora sarab rupa Kaha sanatan Kaha mora sarab rupa Kaha dasa raghunata Patita pavan Kaha mora phata juga Kaha kabira Kaha Eka kale kotha gala Gaurana Tora Kotha gala Gaurana Ra Pasane kutivo matha Anale pasivo Pasane kotivo matha Anale pasivo Gauranga gunera nidhi Kotha gale pavo Gauranga gu Se sab sangira sanghe Je koilo bila Se sab sangira sanghe Si sangana paya Kade naratamodar Sisabang anaya Kade naratamodar Sisangana paya kadena Jaya Nila Prema Dana Karuna Pracho কেন প্রভু কোথা গেলা আচার্য ঠাকুর?
He who brought the treasure of divine love and who is filled with compassion and mercy, where has such personality as Srinivasacharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. So we're celebrating Sri Devananda Pandit's disappearance today. So I'll read from the Samadhi's book. Living in Kulia during Sri Chaitanya's pastimes, Sri Devananda Pandit gave professional readings of Srimad Bhagavatam, tainted with Mayavad philosophy. One day, Srivas Pandit heard this Bhagavad Katha, began crying, and fell to the ground. Becoming disturbed by this display, the foolish disciples of Devananda threw Srivas out of the assembly. By silently observing this misbehavior of his disciples, Devananda committed the Hati Mad Aparad, the mad elephant offense of blaspheming a pure devotee of Lord Chaitanya. Later, by the mercy of Vakrishwar Pandit, an intimate devotee of Sri Gaura Roy, Devananda understood the divinity of Sri Krishna Chaitanya and surrendered to him. The Lord pardoned his offense and blessed him with Bhakti. He serves in Krishna Leela as Bhaguri Muni. Shri Devananda Pandit ki jai. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, Text 58. Abadito api hi abaso yata vastutaya shmitiha durga tatvad aindriyakam tadvad artha vikalpitam abaditopi hi abaso yata vastutaya smritaha durga tatvad andriyakam tadvad artha vikalpitam abaditopi hiyapas abaso yata vastutaya smritaha durga tatvad andriyakam tadvad artha vikalpitam abaditopi abaso yata vastutaya smritaha durga tadvad indriyakam tadvad artha vikalpitam adabopi yamaso Tadvat artha vikalpitam. Sankarsana. So Kanto Prabhu. Anyone online would like to chant?
Abadito piryabaso yadha vashtutaya smritaha durga tatvada indriyakam tatvadartha vikalpitam.
Abaditaha, rejected. Api, although. He, certainly. Abhasaha, a reflection. Yata, as. Vastutaya, a form of reality. Shmitaha, accepted. Durgatatvat, because of being very difficult to prove the reality. Andriyakam, knowledge derived from the senses. Tadvad, similarly. Artha, reality. Vikalpitam, speculated or doubtful. Translation and purport by Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Although one may consider the reflection of the sun from a mirror to be false, it has its actual existence. Accordingly, to prove by speculative knowledge that there is no reality would be extremely difficult. Purport. The impersonalists try to prove that the varieties in the vision of the empiric philosopher are false. The impersonalist philosophy, Vivarta Vada, generally cites the acceptance of a rope to be a snake as an example of this fact. According to this example, the varieties within our vision are false, just as a rope seen to be a snake is false. The Vaishnavas say, however, that although the idea that the rope is a snake is false, the snake is not false. One has experience of a snake in reality, and therefore he knows that although the representation of the rope as a snake is false or illusory, there is a snake in reality. Similarly, this world, which is full of varieties, is not false. It is a reflection of the reality in the Vaikuntha world, the spiritual world. The reflection of the sun from a mirror is nothing but light within darkness. Thus, although it is not exactly sunlight, without the sunlight, the reflection would be impossible. Similarly, the varieties of this world would be impossible unless there were a real prototype in the spiritual world. The Mayavadi philosopher cannot understand this, but a real philosopher must be convinced that light is not possible at all without a background of sunlight. Thus, the jugglery of words used by the Mayavadi philosopher to prove that this material world is false may amaze inexperienced children, but a man with full knowledge knows perfectly well that there cannot be any existence without Krishna. Therefore, a Vaishnava insists on the platform of somehow or other accepting Krishna. Tasmad kenap upayena mana Krishne nivishayat. When we raise our unmixed faith to the lotus feet of Krishna, everything is revealed. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Maya Shakta Mana Partha Yogam Yunjan Mad Ashreha Asam Shayam Samagram Mam Yata Gyas Yasi Touch Chirinu. Now hear, O son of Pritha, Arjuna, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Simply by raising one's staunch faith in Krishna and his instructions, one can understand reality without a doubt. asam shayam samagram mam. One can understand how Krishna's material and spiritual energies are working and how he is present everywhere, although everything is not him. This philosophy of achintya bheda bheda, inconceivable oneness and difference, is a perfect philosophy enunciated by the Vaishnavas. Everything is an emanation from Krishna, but it is not that everything must therefore be worshipped. Speculative knowledge cannot give us reality as it is, but will continue to be nefariously imperfect. So-called scientists try to prove that there is no God and that everything is happening because of the laws of nature. But this is imperfect knowledge because nothing can work unless directed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita 9.10 by the Lord himself. Maya dhyakshena prakriti suyati sacharacharam. Hetu na nena kaunteyam jagad vipari vartate. This material nature is working under my nature, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and non-moving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya gives us note, Durgatadvad artavena parameshvaranaiva kalpitam. The background of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabhaha. This can be understood by a Mahatma who is perfect in knowledge. Such a Mahatma is rarely seen. Oma jnana timarandasya jnananjana shlakaya chakshuran militam yena tasmai Shri Gurve namaha. Shri Chaitanya mano bishtam stapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swaparantikam vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapara Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwar Vishabhanusita Devi Pranamami Vancha Kalpatri Yubhishcha Kripasanabhi Evacha Patitanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. In the purport, I love how Srila Prabhupada writes, speculative knowledge cannot give us reality as it is, but will continue to be nefariously imperfect. Srila Prabhupada, he would often correct people's misunderstanding of this world. When Mayavadis, when these speculators, when they say that this world is false, Srila Prabhupada would say it's not false but temporary. And my spiritual master, he would often use the example of, if you put a hand on the desk, you'll see 5 fingers. Why does the shadow of the hand have 5 fingers? Because the original hand has 5 fingers. So similarly, whatever we experience in this world, whether it's friendship, relationships, love, family, duty, it has its reality in the spiritual world. Or else where would this idea come from? And similarly, no one wants to die. We want to live forever, and we want to enjoy without limits. So where does this idea come from? Since the soul is Satchit Ananda, the soul is eternal, and it's in its natural constitution, it is blissful and full of knowledge. And one of the only ways to do this is by developing pure love to Krishna. And to understand God or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is actually very difficult. And to understand the nature of the soul is very troublesome. And to understand the goal of life as well is very difficult. On book distribution, I was explaining to Mukunda Charna Prabhu, you meet so many people that have these outrageous ideas, you know. Even a song was sung, I don't know who it's from, but it would go something like, what if God was one of us, you know. So a lot of people have this conception that God is just like you and I. And in some religious organizations, this idea that God having a form is, I guess, sacrilegious. You know, like, how can God have a form, you know? And like the idea of, you know, God is so great that we just can't see how great He is, you know. He's too big within our distance. And Mukunda Charna Prabhu said that's why we worship His lotus feet. You know? But Lord Brahma, who is Lord Brahma? Engineer of the universe. And Lord Brahma was the first living entity, the first creature of this universe. And in the Bhagavatam, he said, these people that claim they know Krishna, let them speak like that. As far as I'm concerned, the opulence of Krishna is limitless. My mind, my words, my body, they cannot fathom the greatness of Krishna. So he said, there's people that speak like that. I know Krishna, I know this. Let them talk like that. But Lord Brahma, the father of this universe, is saying, I don't know Krishna at all. You know, and what to speak of others. You know, on book distribution, one of the difficult for me people to get to give a book to are people from India. You know, I tried everything, you know. Would you like to give a donation? You know, this is for the ISKCON temple. You know, this is very auspicious. And they'll tell me, oh, I give a donation. I say, no, but... And when you try to explain to them, they become very resistant, you know. So what can I do? I even offer them a BBT art calendar, and they still say no to that, you know. And then you have... like yesterday, I met this man. He was talking a whole bunch of word jugglery, you know, out of his own mental concoction. And then when I asked him, what happens when you die? He said, I'm going to die in Ananda, in bliss, you know. And I said, are you happy now? And he said, ask my wife, I'm in Samadhi. He was speaking like that, you know. He said, I'm always happy, I'm always blissful, you know. And then the wife didn't look too convinced of this. So, and then I asked him a question. I said, do you believe in God? And then he said, your definition of God and my definition of God may be different. So I asked him, do you think you're God? And he went all about this whole, you know, when we feel this experience. And then eventually his answer was, yes, I think I'm God. You know. And then Vijay, American guy. Actually, he spoke with an accent, so he may be European. So I gave him the Vijay test. I said, if you're God, please tell me what's in my mind right now. He said, I can't do that. So I said, God is all-knowing. God is all-powerful. And if you can't do a simple thing like that, I'm sorry, but you are not God. And I told him, you may be part and parcels of God. You may have the same qualities as God, but you're not God. So he accepted this. And then out of arrogance, out of pride, he walked away. And I called him and I said, sir, I have a book for you. Maybe it can clear a lot of your misunderstanding. And he said, no. I like to think like this. So even when we reach out to people, if we offer people a different type of realization, or if we offer people different sources of knowledge, they won't accept it. And Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. There was a young Muslim boy that came to my table. He said, who is this? He was pointing at Lord Vishnu. And I said, this is God. He said, God? He can't be God, you know. I said, why is God's skin blue? And I said, well, do you expect God to have a human body? And they said, no, but So, yeah, yesterday at Mahabharat Prabhu's gathering, Mukundacharya and I were talking how some people, they have this, in the Muslim faith, if you're a very good, pious Muslim, you're able to see God's face. I think it's twice a day on Friday at most. So they accept this idea that God has features, but you can only see his face. And that is their reward for practicing Islam. But for the Vrajavasis, they see Krishna every day. They wrestle with Krishna, they share lunch with Krishna. Some of them even play jokes on Krishna. It's a beautiful pastime. When Krishna and his cowherd boys were having a picnic, they told Krishna, please close your eyes. And when Krishna closed his eyes, one of his friends put a flower in his mouth. So for the Vaishnavas, we're very intimate with Krishna, with God. And Arjuna, in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna inquires from Krishna. He says, whose knowledge do you consider perfect? One who is always properly engaged in your devotional service, or one who worships the unmanifested, impersonal Brahman? And Krishna says, those whose mind are fixed on my personal form and always engaged in worshipping me, in great and transcendental faith, are considered by me to be most perfect. And then Krishna describes those that are attached to the impersonal aspect of God, his form. Their path is very troublesome and is very difficult. And you can imagine, Srila Prabhupada would say, if you want to know someone, you have to know details about them. You know, what are their likes and dislikes? You know, what are their activities? What are their names? How do they look like? And sometimes people have this idea that, you know, why is God's form so important? You know, because they're, in a selfish way, they think only for their own salvation. Right? Srila Prabhupada would use the title cheap religion. You know, knowing my faults and sinful nature, I want to practice something and worship someone that can take and relieve all my sins. Right? That's the general principle of religion. To go to heaven and then so get rid of my sins and I can enjoy. But where is God in the picture? Is he in the background? And Krishna in the same chapter, he describes those devotees that are very dear to him. And he says, one who is not envious, but a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. So we need to imbibe these qualities. And as conditioned souls, we have a lot to work on, you know, including myself. And in the Vedic literature, it recommends that one should know 3 subjects: Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Sankarsana, do you know what Sambandha is?
Yeah. Sambandha
I was asking if Sankarsana, I know he's very tired, you know, late night last night. Do you know what Sambandha is, Sukanta Prabhu? The relationship. And does anyone know what Abhideya means? Dravida Prabhu?
That's the practice of Bhakti.
Practice. And what does Prayojana mean? The goal. So in the word for word, Srila Prabhupada, he describes Sambandha is a conditioned soul's relationship with the Lord. The conditioned soul. Because a liberated jiva, or soul, knows their constitutional position, but a conditioned soul. And abhideya is translated as the regulated activities of the conditioned soul for reviving that relationship. And prayojana, the ultimate goal of life, to be attained by the conditioned soul, return home back to Godhead. Most people in this world, they have no idea about these three subjects. They think life is just for enjoyment. One person said to me, life is about procreation. So imagine that's all he thinks about. And when these three are not aligned with the teachings of Srila Prabhupada or any of our acharyas, the conclusion will cause confusion. Someone may know Sambandha, someone may know Abhideya, but if the conclusion is incorrect, then the whole process is ruined. And then someone may take to Jnana Yoga, speculative knowledge. And then someone may think that Karma Yoga is the goal to obtain that. So they work hard for fruitive activities. I met this Mataji yesterday. She said, I used to go to the temple a lot. I love the kirtan, I love your philosophy. And then she said, but I miss your association. She was speaking about the devotees. And then she said, can you tell me a little bit about Krishna? So I said, the soul has an eternal relationship with Krishna. That relationship cannot be broken, even at the time of death. And I told her how Krishna resides in the heart of every living entity. Now we're just, speaking some very basic understanding. And then a tear came to her eye and she said, that is so beautiful. And she said, thank you for explaining this to me. So I invited her to the Krishna lounge today, so hopefully she'll come. But she said she got into, different practices, so that's why she kind of fell away from the devotees. But she said, I always loved the kirtan, and I love the concept of God in your philosophy, No, I don't. Sorry, Balaram. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was finishing up his pastimes, there were many misunderstandings. Some thought that he was Gaura Narayan and that we should worship him with awe and reverence. And there was some group that thought he was a gopi in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So people started cultivating this mood of the Sakis, And then they wanted to be his girlfriend. So this is called Saki Beki. And in India you might see this, where the men dress like women. And then others had this idea that no, he's Krishna. He dances with the gopis. In Vrindavan, everyone is Krishna's gopis. So we will be Gauranga's gopis. We will be his girlfriends. So these people are called, what is it called? Gauranga Nagri? Yeah, Nagris, yeah. And when we hear these ideas, we think how offensive, how nonsensical, But this is due to the great effort of the 6 Goswamis. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't write any books, but he gave direct instructions to Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. And the correct understanding is Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahe Anya. That Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as the combination of Lord Chaitanya or Lord Krishna and Radharani, in the mood of Radharani. So this is the proper mood. And so we serve in a certain way. And when Srila Rupa Goswami received these teachings, he expanded on it. Therefore, he wrote Nectar of Devotion, Hari Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And Srila Sanatana Goswami, he also expanded the instructions by writing the Sri Hari Bhakti Vilas and the Brihat Bhagavatam Rita. So the 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan, they worked very hard to establish this proper understanding of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You know, if you were not a devotee and you saw the activities of Lord Chaitanya, you would think a lot of crazy things. You know, dancing, chanting, not following the Vedic rituals, things like that. And so the 6 Goswamis, they gave us plays, poetry, and they also gave us intellectual commentaries on the activities of Lord Chaitanya, his teachings, the philosophy. And Srila Jiva Goswami, he took it upon himself to teach the next generation, to become teachers and leaders. And he had 3 students that were very prominent. Do you guys remember who they were? Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivas Acharya, and Shamananda. And these 3, they went all, Bengal, they went everywhere, and they tried teaching this the process of devotional service. So there's many misunderstandings, wrong conclusions of, what is God, who God is, what is the goal of life, things like that. And even our Srila Prabhupada, he went to so many difficulties to give us this knowledge. A lot of devotees, they comment that at that age, people would usually retire, right? 68, 69 years old. But Srila Prabhupada came to the West at that age on a cargo ship, suffered heart attacks, seasickness, And in the beginning, he landed in Boston. I meet a lot of people from Boston, and I would tell them, this is actually where a spiritual teacher landed in America. You should get this book. And then just by mentioning Boston, they feel like a sense of, okay, maybe I should read it. But yesterday, I got this really, Krishna inspired me to ask this question on book distribution. Do you know what the definition of insanity is? And a lot of people, most people, they understood that, it's defined doing the same things over and over and expecting a different result. So I tell them the year is ending and people have been doing the same things over and over again, but they're hardly any happier than last year. So I said, you take these books, and I tell them, do something new in life, learn something new. I say these books, if you read them, even if you just read 5 minutes, you'll see a profound difference in your consciousness. And then they admit, yeah, why not start something next year, instead of doing the same things over and over again. And I was able to distribute a few books like this. And there was one young person, he was from Argentina, and he was FaceTiming with his mother. And he was capturing, a video of the books that I had. And then the mother said in Spanish, some sentence. And then the son said, my mom wants to get this. And I said, what did your mom say? And then he was holding the Bhagavad Gita. And then mom said, you're holding a priceless jewel in your hand, like that. And then so the mom, she was saying, give him some donation, give him some donation. The son said, how much should I give? The mother said, give him everything you have. So the son said, I only have a 50, I can understand some numbers in Spanish. So the son said, all I have is 50. And then she said, give that to him. So he gave $50. And then so he was very thankful, and the mom was very happy. And I said, this is very generous. Let me give you a few other books. So I gave him SSR in Spanish, as well as Higher Taste in Spanish. And then the uncle that was there, he said, a lot of people need these books. And I said, that's why I'm here. I'm trying to do my part. And then the uncle said, do you have another book that you recommend? So I gave him 2 books, Hiding in Unnatural Happiness and The 4 Questions. And I told him, you look like a very deep thinker. He said, I like to think about life. So I gave him the book, he gave a donation. Maybe. And then there was these 2 Matajis from India, and they walked past me, you know. And then later on, when they were coming back, they saw the saffron cloth, and they said, we're sorry we walked past you, you know. What are these books? And then so they said, oh, I read Bhagavad Gita, so and so. So I said, I bet you haven't read this book, The Journey of Self-Discovery. And she said, I haven't. And I said, you take this. And she said, how much would you like for the book? And I said, we just humbly ask for a donation. You can give $1, you can give $100. So they said, we're students, we don't have that much. So they gave, you know, a proper amount. And then her friend, she was kind of hesitant to get a book. So I asked her, what are your goals in life? And then she said, I want to be this and that. And I said, what about being happy? And she just stopped talking. And I gave her Hiding in Unnatural Happiness. And I use this analogy that the fish's real happiness is in the ocean, in the waters. But if the fish begins to wander, maybe I can find happiness on land. It won't survive. So I told the young lady, I said, all of us, we're looking for happiness in this material world, but there's a lot of dissatisfied people. Even if one has wealth, good health, they're looking for something more meaningful. And so both of them thanked me, and then she said, thank you for doing this. So I showed them that verse in the Bhagavad Gita, how one who explains this to the devotees is very dear to Krishna. They said, wow. I said, you take a Bhagavad Gita, these books are sponsored, and you give them out to your coworkers or friends, classmates. And they said, we will, thank you very much, like that. So we have the proper understanding of devotional service. We have the proper understanding of Krishna, and we also have the proper understanding of the process of how to attain Krishna. And it's due to the merciful acharyas, as well as Srila Prabhupada. Okay, that's my little class. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Sankarsana?
Thank you for the nice class. My question was just about the first part of the purport, talking about the how impersonalists try to prove varieties of visions of empirical philosophy are false.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was saying, like, it seems that, if I have it right, that our acharyas didn't really necessarily underestimate their opponents, like Sankaracharya and others, because, yeah, Sankaracharya, he tried to take different statements from Vedic literature and twist them and prove that, you know, the Lord's energy is faulty. So my question is, like, what's our duty practically to combat that, or like what's our responsibility to uphold that kind of standard practically? Or I don't know if it makes sense or not.
I think I know. So they believe that everything in this world is false. That's what the Mayavadis believe. And they don't understand that Krishna's energies is everything. And so Srila Prabhupada would often say, just like an electrician, he can turn electricity to hot or cold water, like that. So Krishna's energy can also be simultaneously, can turn something material into spiritual, and spiritual into matter, like that. So our argument with these Mayavad philosophy, actually it's not good to waste so much time with them. But Dravida Prabhu, can you help me with this?
Well, I mean, in my little experience, it's really rare to meet an orthodox Mayavadi here. you know. But the problem is that the essence of their philosophy is also seeped in just to the general populace, which is that you know, that there's ultimately no underlying meaning to the whole thing. That their philosophy is that just void it all out and don't get involved. You know, the so-called good and bad in this world is just illusory, and that we're all illusory. So just the ideal is nirvishesha, the very thing that Prabhupada saved us from, right? Nirvishesha tarane, nirvishesha shunyavadipassadesha tarane. So it's important to understand that this reality, that these are, you know, all the varieties we see are reflections of the real variety, of the ultimate variety. And that's the whole point of Prabhupada he's going with the rope and the snake. They say, oh, the rope is an illusion, the snake is illusion. No, there are ropes and there are snakes, but the idea that a rope is a snake, that's the illusory. Mm-hmm. So the idea that this world is unreal is wrong. It's a real reflection. Reflections are real, but it's not what it seems. That's the whole idea. That the happiness so-called happiness in this world is fake, is false, and the way we can understand that is because it's temporary. It's just like a reflection that you see and then you don't see. So if your whole absorption of life is in trying to grasp these reflections, it's 100% impossible to be happy with that, because you yourself, this form that we have, is also fleeting. It's not unreal, but it's temporary. That's the whole idea. So that aspect of the philosophy is you know, very important. That's the whole achincha beta beta, you know, inconceivably simultaneously one and different. And so we are different from Krishna, but at the same time we have a oneness because we're essentially the same. We're spiritual beings. So that's an important aspect of this.
Thank you, Dravid. Yeah.
Well, I think Sankarshan's question might have been missed. I think Sankarshan was asking that, or at least first he was commenting that it seems that some of our acharyas, they don't underestimate the influence and even the arguments, like the strength in some of the arguments that are there from Shankaracharya and other Mayavadis. And so they may even go into some detail about their arguments so that they can combat it and show that we aren't just dismissing it because it's offensive or something. We're actually, you know, looking at their arguments, dissecting their arguments. And this verse is a good example. This verse is like a really good verse. And there's a lot of depth to it. And then in the purport, then also we could see, like a strong analysis of Mayavad philosophy. And then from that, Sankarshan, if I understood correctly, was asking, therefore, do we have some obligation? How do we do if so? How do we understand, like, who has the obligation to become well versed in Mayavad philosophy so that we can combat it? And is that accurate? Okay. And then from that, I was also wondering, and I think this might have come up before. I don't know if there was a conclusion, that there's that verse about, you know, if you that we shouldn't hear Mayavad philosophy. But then if we can't hear Mayavad philosophy, then who can hear Mayavad? If we generally can't, but then we also want to combat it, we also don't want to just like... And sometimes devotees, when they give arguments against Mayavad philosophy, they're pretty bad arguments, and it kind of shows we haven't read about Mayavad philosophy. But there is an injunction not to read about Mayavad philosophy because it can, you know, spoil our bhakti, and, you know, we can fall down from that even. So I think there is some complexity to that, and I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that?
One thing that comes to mind is, I think it was that Bhattacharya. He would, or what is it called? No, it was something Vidya Nidhi. He was like a scholar, and he wanted to defeat everyone in Bengal. And when it came to Srila Rupa Goswami, it's not, you know, and they just signed it, you know. They were going to argue with them. And I think it was, who was it that? Jiva Goswami. He defeated them, and then he was actually chastised by his, you know, he said, don't waste time arguing, you know. Even though he was younger than Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. He defeated this scholar, you know. So I think that's one thing I...
I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood. If you want to really get into the depths of Mayavad, you know what Mayavad is, the best thing to do, in order to defeat it, obviously, to read chapter 7 of the Adi Lila. That chapter was printed before the rest of the book. And the reason was because Srila Prabhupada quotes extensively from Bhaktisiddhanta's commentary, because this is the chapter where Lord Chaitanya meets Prakashananda Saraswati and defeats him, and all disciples become followers of Lord Chaitanya. So there's extensive explanation of Mayavad philosophy and the arguments to defeat it, if you're interested. And there's no danger because it's from the bhakti point of view. In other words, it's not that, oh, we have to be careful. No, you want to dive into that. And so Prabhupada, you know, he had the idea that we should become well-versed. That's why he put it out first. There's always that, we always have to remember that Prabhupada wasn't really sure how much more time he had. And so the fact that he, of course, put that chapter out first means that he really thought it was important that we become well-versed and we're able to defeat Mayavad philosophy. So that's the answer. It's completely free of any danger, but you'll find out the details.
So maybe study Mayavad philosophy, but don't study from a Mayavad, study from devotees. Would that be
any book you might find that
Microphone.
Before I joined, I mentioned this before. I was fairly deeply involved with Ramakrishna. And Nikhilananda Swami, who Prabhupada met, he was in charge in the late 60s, but he had a stroke by the time I got there in 72. There was someone else in charge. But they had the whole library of books. And I didn't, and I forget if someone recommended it to me or not, but I had it. But I never read it because it wasn't a defeat of the Mayavad philosophy, it was a glorification of it. But there in the 7th chapter and in some other places, especially in the CC where Prabhupada meets Mayavadis, maybe Bhattacharya, those are the places where you can become quite well versed and understand what's going on. And along with the arguments of the Mayavads, you find the Bhakti arguments against it, which is what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, that we can very thoroughly study and like the arguments of Mayavad, of Mayavadis, without associating with them either physically or through their writings. And maybe that's the thing that's sometimes missing, is that Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Charitamrita, our acharyas, do give some thorough analysis and arguments regarding Mayavad philosophy, but then if we don't give them attention, if we don't really sit down, put the energy into them, then we still won't have good we won't have good arguments, even though they're there to learn from our own acharyas rather than by studying or by associating with the Mayavadis.
Thank you. Are there any last questions or comments? Okay. Chad, you have something?
Hare Krishna. So how did the mom on the phone know about the Bhagavad Gita? Did you find out?
She read it a while ago, and then she just understood this is probably one of the most important books someone can read. I can hear her from the phone, like, I get it, in Spanish, Yeah. But the December marathon's ending soon. And so Dvijamani Prabhu, Yamunapati Prabhu, and myself, we collected a montage, I would call it, of photos of people who took books and beads, and we'll be presenting that in a Sunday feast. So stay tuned. I invited Yamunapati Prabhu to come and speak personally about his interactions. Okay. I have to check. The first Sunday of January. Yeah. Okay. Grant Trust Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.